Well, PayPal is finally running, just busting through 52-week highs on its way up to $100. But what does Wall Street have to say about all of this? And do I think this run can continue? And is PayPal stock still a buy today at this current price? So let's discuss all that today, right after you hit that like button, if you like getting the truth without the hype. And that's what you're going to get today, guys. I know it's PayPal, it's what we call in the group there, but it's finally turned that corner. But we need to see, is this going to continue? Is this the end of the road? What the heck is going on with the stock itself? And of course, we'll see what Wall Street's saying. So let's jump into the video right now.
Welcome back to Fast Market here on the Schwab Network. It's time for cash tags. For that, let's bring in our next guest. It's going to be Landon Swan. He's a co-founder at Likefolio. Welcome back to the show, Landon.
Thanks. Great to be here. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday to you. Happy Monday to PayPal investors. Finally, after a few years of just downbeat movement in the stock, we're starting to get a little bit of a reprieve. The shares are up nearly 30% so far this year. Landon, do you have the data that backs up the optimism back in this stock?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at this if you look at a 1 year chart of PayPal, you know, they're killing it. This is amazing, right? The all-time or 1 year highs, I should say. If you zoom out to a 3 year chart, it's like, oh man, what used to be, right? Back in the lockdown days when everything was going online, they really, you know, obviously it's a different company then as far as investors were concerned, but they were beat down. They're finally making that comeback. And I think a lot of it has to do with their partnerships. I mean, we've always talked about, when we talk about PayPal, we always kind of look at Venmo and Cash App, you know, how's that battle going? But really the story here is that PayPal, the brand PayPal, is doing the domination right now. It's not Venmo. You know, I think they were up 8% Venmo, that side of it, whereas PayPal revenue was up 19%. So this is a PayPal story, and they're doing it through partnerships. You know, they've expanded their partnership, and there's that 3 year chart. That's just, it's crazy. The current year looks like a blip on the radar. But
yeah, guys, that's stock investing right there. In regards to the stocks, you know, anybody can make a chart look any way that they want. That's part of the reason why I caution you guys against all the chart gurus and everything else. It's great for trading. It's great for certain instances, but it's not always great as a long-term buy and hold investor. And more importantly, when you're able to zoom out and look at charts, you're able to get more context in regards to what's going on. There's sometimes a 30% move is a massive move, and there's other times where a 30% move is not so big in the grand scheme of things. But of course, everything in the end comes back to valuation. But it's interesting to hear them talking already that this is a PayPal story, not a Venmo story. And more importantly, the things that he's discussing right here, partnerships, he feels like that's the main reason why the stock's moving. That's great, but those aren't the big hitters that Alex has thrown out there. So that tells you they're already making strides without any of those big hitters coming to fruition yet in regards to the stock. So kind of keep that in mind as we kind of move forward here in the video in regards to what he's discussing.
Investors want to know what's going on now, so it's headed in the right direction. Again, it's through partnerships. So they've got a new partnership with Amazon. They've expanded their partnership with Shopify, expanded their partnership with Fiserv. They've DIDN, I think, is the other one that they're expanding, or they're integrating with the PayPal Fastlane. So they're basically, they've got one with Facebook Meta. So basically, they're figuring out a way to become the merchant of choice, or an option at least, for most of the ways that you can buy things online. And I think that's huge. I mean, they're doing it through partnerships. PayPal used to be just this thing that you bought. That's how you paid your transactions on eBay, right? But now it's actually a way to check out. And you know, I can say that I use it personally. Our business uses it quite a bit, and it's really a strong way to transact. And I think that they've figured out the formula, right? And that's through partnerships. And so I'm very happy to see that. They've also done a great job of cutting costs. They reduced their workforce by about 9%. Their volume is up about 11%, again, due to all these partnerships. So, you know, the top line is growing, the expense line is decreasing, and that's going to make investors happy. That's going to push the stock price higher every time.
You know, Landon, you're right. The 1 year chart, the 3 year chart tells two different stories. We talk about that a lot on the show, how you got to look at both. You know, Alex Chriss started in August of 23, their new CEO, and he brought a different vibe to this company. And what it appears to be, you know, they're going to do better in lower interest rates. I think higher rates of competition hurt them in the past. But there's a new thing. They brought in this guy from Uber to do PayPal ads. And it's kind of interesting if you read about it, because what does PayPal have that other places don't? Actual purchasing data of customers. And advertisers are probably going to like that, how much information they can give them. Is this a part of this company that can start, you know, they've underplayed it in some of their conference calls. They haven't really talked about it too much. But if they start getting in the ad business, that's a massive business that they can tap into.
Now, keep in mind, guys, I'll tell you if I think PayPal stock's still a buy or not based upon valuation here at the end of the video, once we're kind of done here with the Wall Street guys. But I want you guys to keep in mind, I do not have a massive ad revenue piece to the pie in regards to PayPal. Again, management team has downplayed it. It's definitely something that could be possible. When you start talking about having access to actual purchase data and why that would be so huge as an advertiser, as somebody who's advertising a business, to be able to do that. So if they're able to successfully execute that, that's something that's not built into the valuation right now that could bring huge revenue later on. And of course, more importantly, bottom line profits. You see how big of a beast that is for Google and Meta and companies like that, to where they're able to essentially, the margins are just so high. Everything is just so great about that particular business model if they can execute to it. The reason why I don't include it yet, although it's exciting in regards to the possibility, is because it's still speculative right now. Now, I believe because they barely talk about it, they give it a little bit of a talking point and then they kind of move on. It means that they're working on it. They're trying to get it there. More importantly, they're trying to get it right. But trying to get it right and actually executing it right are two different things. So that's something that, to me, long term, I can get excited about. But in regards to what it's going to do for the stock price today or anything else like that, it doesn't really do a whole heck of a lot. So you got to kind of keep that in mind. That's where those hype projections and hype other things all come from. Of course, nobody's hyping up PayPal like Tesla and other stocks like that. There isn't PayPal to the moon channels and stuff like that. But nonetheless, that's where you can get yourself in trouble as an investor. But it's something I like to put in my back pocket as, hey, that's another possibility in the future, that if they decide to go after that aggressively and they execute on it properly, it could be a massive, massive revenue and profit center in the future in regards to PayPal.
It really is. I mean, if you think about the gold mine that, like a Google has, it knows everything that you're searching for and what your habits are there. I think even stronger, and this is a great point that you make, Kevin, I think even stronger is, what do you actually purchase? Not just what do you search for, but what do you purchase? Because at the end of the day, that's really what, merchants and businesses care about. What would this person buy? Well, is it similar to what I've got? Can I compete? Can I get them in my store as well? So it's extremely valuable data. I do agree that they're probably testing the waters to see if this works before they get out there and hype it too much. But on the surface, it seems like a winning strategy for sure, especially once they get, again, all of these different partnerships involved. They're going to know how you spend on each one of these different platforms, what you're looking for, and what ads to serve you. And just, it kind of reminds me of Pinterest in a way, in that they serve ads that you actually like because they know what you like. And so generally speaking, ads aren't in the way like a Yahoo. When you have an ad on a Yahoo, it's in your way. You're just trying to get around it to get to the thing that you want. Pinterest does it completely different. They're showing you things that are actually helpful and sometimes even better than the search results. So if PayPal can go that route, not annoy its customers, but actually provide value by recommending different services that they know that they're interested, that the consumer's interested in, then it's not only going to add to the bottom line, but it's going to make people enjoy using PayPal more. So it's going to be a win-win for them. So I don't think it's out there yet as far as like this is the reason PayPal's crushing it, but it's definitely something that they're looking at, and it could be a big win for them. We just got to wait and see. But I can't think of a lot of reasons why it wouldn't work, but implementation is always different than idea, so we'll see.
Yeah, and when you look at the some of the charts that you have on this mobile wallet, payment to paid P2P and stuff like that, the new era that the CEO is actually doing. There's actually a positive note out of Deutsche Bank today. They raised the price target to 94 from 74, just from some of the things that this new CEO is doing. He came over from Intuit. Is that the key here, Landon? Because they've got over 400 million users across all their platforms. So is it that CEO decision? Because that seems to be the theme going on right now in underperforming stocks, is you got to change leadership, and they have.
Let me answer that for you in regards to PayPal. Not every situation needs that. In regards to PayPal, yes. You took a older management team that was much more legacy focused, not focused on the future, just interested in just old metrics that mattered, a decade ago that don't matter now. And that's very, very clear just in their earnings presentations from one management team to the other. They're completely different. That's why I tell you guys, listen to those earnings calls. There's a lot in there. So it's basically taking a legacy style business that was at the forefront, then ended up kind of back of the line per se, right? They ended up going from the leaders, still the leaders in terms of size, but in terms of technological advancement, being ahead of the curve, being behind, to now starting to make their way back up to being ahead again and caring about metrics that matter in today's environment and not focusing on metrics that mattered a decade ago, 15 years ago, whatever the case was. So yes, the management team change is massive. This is part of the thesis behind buying PayPal was, do you believe in Alex's vision or not? Do you believe he's the right guy to turn it around or not? Now, not every turnaround works, as we've seen, but in this particular case so far, everything has been clicking right along on schedule. And no matter how forward-looking Wall Street is, the reality was they were not seeing what we were seeing going on in the earnings in PayPal leading up to now and this latest run in PayPal.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the 3-year versus the 1-year chart, this guy came in August of 23. He looks like a rock star right now, right? I mean, obviously he's doing good things, and we've seen in the past what a CEO change can do. One of my favorites is Domino's. Like, that stock was dead, the company was dead, and then all of a sudden, 10 years later, it's crushing it. So CEOs can make a huge impact, and basically,
I love the way he used the 10-year time frame too, not the short term in regards to that. And you can go back and pull up Domino's chart and see. I'm not interested in a 30% gain in PayPal. I'm not a trader. I didn't buy it for a 30% gain. I bought it because it was so significantly undervalued, and it was a great company with great, not just potential, but a lot of forward TAM moving forward, because everybody likes to act like, the digital payment space is a legacy business. And it's like, the TAM there is still massive to me. And there's still a lot more to go to reach out there and grab in regards to that. And everybody can still be a winner. I don't need PayPal to win and Square to lose, or, whatever the case is, all the different narratives that get thrown around out there. The reality is there's enough for everybody to win and everybody to make a lot of money over the next decade as everything continues to transition in that direction. So all good stuff all the way around. But I love the way he focused on the 10-year versus, basically what we're doing right now in regards to PayPal, just a little 1-year chart.
The entire idea here is that this space is growing, right? This is a rising tide that's lifting all ships. PayPal is at the forefront of this. They've turned it around from being kind of, obsolete technology to being the wallet of choice. And in fact, they're growing the most out of all of the digital wallets right now, including their own Venmo, which is, supposed to be the mobile one, but PayPal is becoming that for them. So, you can see PayPal is beating Cash App. It's beating its own Venmo. It's beating the competitor Square. So it's at the top of the heap, and by a pretty big margin. This is changing in app users. So this is people, joining, downloading, growing the number of users that are on the PayPal app. So they're headed in the right direction for sure. In fact, they just raised guidance because of, they talked about how the consumer's resilient. Back to school shopping was bigger than what they thought it would be. So, really kind of everything's going in the right direction for this company, which is why it's at 1-year highs. And I think a lot of it, back to your question, I think a lot of it can be attributed to the CEO and the strategy shift of just, partnerships, increase revenue, cut those expenses. Again, that's always a winning formula for investors.
Yep, 100% agree with him there. And just look at that chart right there. Every time I hear, the competition's eating them alive and things of that nature, clearly not. And remember, that's in percent data, which means they should be losing that given the fact they are so much larger than others. Therefore, it's harder for them to get a larger percentage bump than other folks who are much, smaller in numbers. And that's simply not true. They're simply outpacing everyone, including their own Venmo, like they said, Cash App, Square there on the chart. So it shows you the growth that they're experiencing as a quote unquote legacy business, as the big dog on the yard, and they're still outstripping everybody there in regards to that. So again, another massive thing that probably will go under the radar, probably isn't going to get a lot of talk because I don't think that's nearly as exciting as talking about the downfall of PayPal. But nonetheless, those are the facts. That's exactly what they're seeing in regards to the data. And it's another point pointing towards not just a turnaround, but a pretty substantial turnaround. Like I said, Alex Chris there, just over a year. It's a pretty substantial turnaround in just over a year. So all things pointing in the right direction for PayPal.
Yeah, and you mentioned those partnerships, Amazon, the partnership with MasterCard also. They're giving cash back on those purchases above a specific limit. But they've got earnings at the end of October. I mean, with this 27.5% rally we've seen so far this year, are you guys still, interested in this on the buy side?
Yeah, I would. With all these, price target raises and everything, you may not see a dip. I'd definitely be buying on dips. If they were reporting tomorrow, I ran the numbers, they're at plus 27 right now, even though they're at 1-year high. So the data looks really strong, and we could support a little bit higher move. But if we push up another 10, 15% into earnings, then we're probably going to be closer to neutral because, we're a lot of the value, we're value investors, I guess you could say it like Father. We always consider where the stock is versus what expectations are. We think that expectations are high, but the data is a little higher than that, than what they are. So we do see room to the upside if earnings were tomorrow. We do have a few weeks until then, though, so we'll just have to see. Hopefully, for earnings traders, it's sideways or maybe a couple dips between now and then. I doubt it, but if so, I'd be comfortable picking up shares heading into earnings.
All right, so I'll go ahead and stop the video right there. You hear the discussion and everything he was discussing there at the end. That's all trader stuff. That's why I don't care. I don't care what it trades into earnings. I'm not trying to guess which direction it's going to go into earnings or anything else like that. Those are all very, very specific trades for very, very specific reasons. In the end, it comes down to valuation of the stock. Where is that valuation at? And right now it's trading at a multiple in the 18, 19 range or so, right up in that area. So that to me is still cheap. And remember, we have earnings coming up. If they bring in more EPS, which I suspect that they will, I don't think anybody has them bringing in less EPS than before. That means that will push that valuation even cheaper. In the meantime, of course, obviously, depending upon how it trades coming into earnings there, obviously, if you run up over 90 bucks or something like that, it may take a lot of that out, but it's still not overvalued by any stretch of the imagination. And more importantly, according to Alex's guidance and a lot of other things he has put out there, we could see a lot of EPS growth as some of these other initiatives start to actually take hold and start to actually deliver to that bottom line, meaning we're at the beginning of this curve, not the end of this curve. So you got to remember, just simply because it's trading at an 18 now, it could have a run up, they could have a great EPS number, and it goes right back down to significantly undervalued again. I mean, take a look at some of the multiples that some of their competitors who are growing less than what PayPal's doing, but yet it's trading at a much higher multiple, despite the fact it's not seeing the same exact growth. So when you start kind of thinking through a lot of those sorts of things, it's actually really cheap still, despite this particular run that it's been on. So for me, I don't care about what those options traders are doing or what the earnings traders are doing or anybody else like that. And what's the short-term upside? I don't care. I'm just looking long-term in regards to valuation. So for me, PayPal is still a buy. It is still significantly undervalued. And I think the best earnings are still to come. They're coming next year. Alex was talking about the turnaround being complete this year. We'll see what the numbers are here in October, but it's very, very substantial that the turnaround, not in terms of going back to $300 or something like that, just the turnaround in regards to getting earnings pointing in the right direction, getting the right customer base there, getting some of the growth engines starting to move in the right direction and starting, obviously starts off like that, then it really starts to ramp as it goes. All those sorts of things are falling in place exactly on the timeline that Alex has laid out there. He has executed wonderfully, and that team has executed wonderfully to it. So for me, it is still a buy at this stage. Now, of course, it's not nearly as good of a buy as it was when it was at 50, but hey, that's all right. Nobody wanted to touch it back in 50. I think myself and our group members there, and some of you guys out there here in YouTube land, are the ones that were buying. Outside of that, I don't think anybody wanted anything to do with it. So for me, I am still willing to add to this stock. I'm not willing to say it is off to snide yet. It's off to the races or any of the other hyperboles. I'm not willing to hype it up to the moon or anything else like that. But it's definitely starting to see not just tangible things in earnings, but also tangible switch in what Wall Street's thinking as well, and in metrics that Wall Street likes to see, and just the narrative overall in regards to PayPal and fintech overall. So those are all positives for PayPal stock. And if you're having a hard time understanding, valuation, working through a lot of the nonsense that is Wall Street, obviously we got all this chaos coming up here with the election coming up and everything else. So you got to have a solid plan. You got to have a solid base, a solid foundation. And if you don't have that, make sure you check out the pinned comment for my group. If you stuck around this long, I may have left something special down there for those of you guys looking to join, where you get access to 5 free courses. You get direct access to me anytime you want. Jump on our live Q&As, be a part of the best 6, 7, and 8-figure Discord out there. Get your free coaching. Guys, there's so much involved. Check out the pinned comment, see everything that's included, and see if a membership's right for you. And click this video here if you want to see exactly what I'm buying in this market. And click here to see my exact plan for this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.